Hi everyone, I'm Jay Flores, the Global STEM Ambassador at Rockwell Automation and creator of the series, It's Not Magic, It's Science. I try to help students see the real life connections to what they're learning in your classes. I guess in is relative this year depending on where you live, right? And depending on where you are, the events surrounding MFG Day are different. Many of us aren't taking trips to a manufacturing site nearby to see why modern manufacturers continue to say, creators want it. But thanks to supporters like PTC, we can still capture what MFG Day is all about. It's not only by using the right hashtag MFG Day 20. MFG Day is really a state of mind. It's about inspiring the next generation, being creative, and feeling that anything is possible. Because even amid what we see today, it can be. Creators at work today are making it possible. And it's because of you too. On this National Teachers Day, we celebrate you, the influencers that are helping us create a better future. So to help start things up, we're joined by the chairman of the board of the Manufacturing Institute, the charitable nonprofit behind MFG Day, and the president and CEO of the National Association of Manufacturers, Jaden Timmons.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome. This virtual setting is probably very familiar to you, given that so many teachers are making use of this technology for their own classrooms. I'm watching my own kids learn how to navigate this technological frontier, and I've been amazed that students just have a natural affinity for smart technology in ways that we didn't when we were growing up. And that's just one reason why a career in modern manufacturing it's really a natural fit for so many young people. Manufacturers are using virtual technology produced by companies like PTC to transform production. In fact, some manufacturers can design advanced machinery and robotics using only their smartphones. These are the kinds of careers available in modern manufacturing today, and there are countless opportunities out there, from computer scientists to technicians, designers, and even marketing, as well as continued education opportunities. And that's what we at the National Association of Manufacturers and the Manufacturing Institute are all about: finding talented, ambitious young people and connecting them with all the tools they need to find a rewarding career making things in America. We just celebrated MFG Day 2020, where manufacturers across the country opened their doors virtually and online to hundreds of thousands of young Americans. And we're going to have similar events like that throughout October, as well as the rest of the year. The Manufacturing Institute is here to provide resources for you and also for your students. And if you want to learn more about MFG Day and about other events and programs, I welcome you to take a look at our website, creatorswanted.org. Thank you to PTC for making today's event possible, and a special thanks to all of you, the educators, for the critical service that you provide for our next generation. So now I'm going to throw it back to the other Jay.
Thanks, Jay. And now let's hear from another leader who is making today possible, Jim Heppelmann, President and CEO of PTC.
Hi, I'm Jim Heppelmann, the CEO of software company PTC, and I'm coming to you from our awesome Customer Experience Center here at our Boston Seaport headquarters. We at PTC are proud to partner with the National Association of Manufacturers to bring you Creators Wanted, a program for America's teachers. At PTC, our purpose statement is the power to create, and we're proud to support America's teachers and parents as they guide youth through these challenging times toward a very promising future. We at PTC also want to give all students and children the power to create. That's why we donate our world-class, cloud-based 3D design platform, Onshape, along with Creo and MathCAD, to students in K-12 schools, and we're proud sponsors and supporters of FIRST Robotics. We're also happy to announce the release of the Smart Manufacturing 2 app on the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store, where your students can experience modern manufacturing with augmented reality, wherever the students are. Just search Smart MFG 2 in your App Store. Back to you, Jay.
I don't know what you thought of years ago when you heard the word manufacturing, but we all probably need to rethink it even more. So say hello to the future.
If you're manufacturing an actual good and you have a skill to do that, that's something that will always be needed. People will always need to have something manufactured for them of some real world good. So there's solace in knowing that your career has a future.
It's kind of amazing that we get rolls of sheet metal that come off of a trailer, and at the end of the line somebody puts a key in and it starts. All of these things have to come together perfectly, and it does.
The work that I'm doing is right on the cutting edge of innovation in the industry. We're doing new cloud-based service technology, new types of analytics that really haven't been done in the industry before.
What I love most is working with the people here. We all have one common goal, and that goal is to make a great vehicle for our customers.
There's a lot of beauty in how something is made.
I was one of 2 women in my computer science class of 200, and it felt like I was an outlier. Now, more than half of my team are women.
We're all really proud to be women in this career.
To think like a digital native, but go into manufacturing and use that skill set is tremendous.
It's in their blood, it's their life to make something.
What you're doing actually has an impact on the world.
So I said that many of us aren't visiting manufacturing sites across the country, but that doesn't mean we can't get an inside look at one to get some ideas of how we can inspire students to create the future.
Welcome to the Customer Experience Center, or CXC for short, here at PTC's headquarters in Boston. In this space, we tell the amazing stories of how our manufacturing customers have transformed their engineering, manufacturing, and service operations utilizing PTC's world-class software solutions. You'll see how manufacturers are leading the way in innovation by utilizing technologies such as augmented reality to help frontline manufacturing and service workers interact with machines and spaces in new ways, how they're using the Internet of Things to optimize operations, and advanced artificial intelligence-based simulations to design the future. I hope that today's event and this tour will help provide you with inspiration and information to share with your students. Manufacturing provides many interesting and fulfilling career paths and will give your students the opportunity to be on the leading edge of innovation as they create their futures. So let's go down the hallway to Brian Josinski to kick it off.
Thanks, Jim. I'm Brian, a corporate experience engineer here in the CXC. I started my career in the automotive industry in Detroit, Michigan as an IoT specialist. And now, here in Boston, I get the awesome opportunity to work with manufacturing leaders and executives daily, demonstrating the art of the possible. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to show how technology is enabling the digital transformation of manufacturers across America. This space is broken up into 3 zones: the field, which I'm currently in, the office, and the factory. These 3 zones represent the diversity of roles and environments manufacturers work in and the amazing diversity of backgrounds team members come from. Something that may surprise many is that a manufacturing company's job doesn't end when their product leaves the factory. They employ millions of service technicians across America. These technicians are responsible for keeping products running and act as a face for the brand. In the past, service technicians needed to memorize thousands of pages of service procedures for situations in the field that they may never encounter. That's no longer the case. In fact, I can fit an entire training and operation manual in this iPad, freeing me up to focus on customer satisfaction and strengthening relationships. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, imagine what would happen if we could interact with the products we touch in the spaces we're in. With augmented reality, or AR for short, we can do just that by blending the physical and digital worlds. For example, I have a problem with my Polaris Razor, and I need a service technician to replace a broken door. Let me play the role of a service technician and demonstrate how they would use AR to follow a service procedure. Come with me. As a service technician, I'm going to launch my augmented reality application. And with my augmented reality application, we're going to try and give you information in context. So with a paper manual, it's really hard to understand things in 3D. With this, I'm going to take a look and identify that geometry, and now we're locked on and we're going to digitally decorate. Let's take a step in and make sure we see all the steps clearly. The required tools are on the right-hand side here. Make sure we have a screwdriver and the right hardware. Everyone hates when they forget the hardware they need as they're halfway building something. In this step, we're going to fly a door into position. And what's really powerful is having this 3D context. We're able to see the orientation of everything correctly and make sure that we're, in the right position. Same thing as before, scrounging for the correct nuts and bolts. In this case, we're grabbing the right hardware to be able to do this efficiently and quickly. And then giving the orientation or the order of these nuts and bolts may sound mundane, but it's really important because if we put them in the correct order, we're going to guarantee quality and the door won't sag. As I go to the next step here, we're going to make sure that our tool's configured correctly and that we're doing righty-tighty and not lefty-loosey. And we're going to tighten those bolts in the correct orientation and with the correct foot-pounds. And this is going to help us make sure that that door stays on. As you'd imagine, razors are pretty rugged vehicles and we don't want that door flying off on us. And as that last step there wants to close the door, we assembled it correctly, great job. Augmented reality instructions like this are really helpful to make sure that we're doing our job efficiently and we guarantee a high level of quality for our customer. Razor door assembly complete. As you can see, with the power of augmented reality, we were able to complete this with minimal training. Now, I'm going to hand it off to Adam, who's going to show you how technology is transforming the role of a design engineer.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Parsons, and I'm joining you today in the office portion of our Corporate Experience Center. And I'm here to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, generative design. I'm actually traditionally trained as an architect, but I've always been fascinated with the intersection of manufacturing and design, of where specific tools and manufacturing methods influence and inform the decisions engineers make while designing. I was pretty fortunate to have mentors and professors in college that encouraged me to explore these passions, to continue to push the boundaries of design, which eventually led to me professionally exploring these pursuits in digital fabrication, additive manufacturing, and yes, you guessed it, even generative design. Now, generative design is often associated with the ability to design organic forms, surfaces, or products using the assistance of AI that can only be manufactured via 3D printing. And while that is a way that generative can be leveraged, here at PTC, we like to dream a little bigger. The true value of generative design comes from being able to unlock endless creative possibilities when it comes to engineering and product design, not just tied to a single material or a single manufacturing method. Engineers subconsciously design with bias, their own preference when it comes to solving a particular problem. In this case here, I have a part designed by Jacobs Engineering that is a CO2 filter for spacesuits made for NASA. Yes, I'm talking about sending things into space. This original part here, it's boxy, it's heavy. It's a clear series of extrusions and subtractions that yielded this particular iteration. And while it satisfies its requirements, imagine if it was made out of a different material, or made possibly in a different manner, say casted, machined, or even injection molded. Imagine if the possibilities were more or less limitless. AI and generative design put the knowledge of expert engineers, masters of knowing how to design for their industries with their set of tools built on decades of experience, into the hands of young designers like your students and myself at the simple click of a button. Generative design is poised to completely change how engineering teams work, the designs they're capable of developing, and the manufacturing tools they innovate around to bring the latest, greatest solutions to industry problems across different market segments. It is an exciting time to be entering the workforce in design. These implications and advancements in how we design are only going to continue to impact technology downstream in the product lifecycle and eventually how products are used. I'm going to pass things back to Brian so he can show you how the same level of technology innovation is changing how we think about manufacturing in the factories of today.
Thanks, Adam. I'm now over in our factory zone where we show examples of both process and discrete manufacturing. Like the station behind me where we're demonstrating an engine assembly operation, or to my right, a beverage production line. I'd like to take the opportunity to challenge the misconceptions around the manufacturing jobs, being old-fashioned or dirty. Manufacturers are using concepts like a smart connected work cell to improve their operations, reduce waste, and to create a safer work environment. So what is a smart connected work cell exactly? Well, I think we've all built something like IKEA furniture before where we have parts and tools scattered all over the floor. What if the tool already knew the next step? That's exactly what we do with the Internet of Things in this example of an Atlas Copco connected torque wrench. Now this torque wrench is connected to an IoT gateway on the bench here. And from that gateway, we digitally send work instructions, and that reconfigures the tool. When the technician completes the step, we capture quality data for reporting. This ensures that products are made both properly and safely. This is just a small example, but the numbers aren't small. In fact, there are over 12 million workers in the manufacturing sector in the US alone, making it the 8th largest economy in the world. This is where we need the help of parents and teachers like you. Over the next decade, it's projected that 4.6 million manufacturing jobs will be added, but over half may go unfilled due to a lack of qualified talent. Let's fill these jobs with bright young people ranging from technicians assembling engines to engineers using AI to design the future. Thank you for joining us on the PTC CXC tour. Hopefully we were able to challenge assumptions around the manufacturing sector and show how digital transformation is giving manufacturers the power to create. Back to you, Jay.
Just a note about me right now, not wearing a face mask. In some of the videos, if we're not wearing face masks, it's because we either recorded before the pandemic or because we were able to social distance and take other safety precautions. And you sure can social distance when you're on a Zoom call, right, Carolyn?
Thanks, Jay. It's great to be with you. Very socially distant here with our virtual setup. In my role as Executive Director of the Manufacturing Institute, I have the awesome privilege of working with a great team to inspire, educate, and empower the manufacturing workforce of today and tomorrow. And I'll tell you, the one thing that is always so clear is that the best inspiration comes from the creators in manufacturing themselves. So today, with me is Sabrina Crandall, a product engineer at Novellus, and Sophia Scheller, a manufacturing engineer at Proto Labs. And we want to have a conversation to give everyone a sense of what modern manufacturers are really about and what the possibilities are that lie ahead. So let's talk about your role in modern manufacturing and what do you do? What do you create? And Sophie, let's start with you.
Oh, well, so I'm working with Proto Labs. I've had a few jobs there now, but currently I work with our secondary ops department. So what I help do is facilitate added operations that our customers want on mostly injection molded parts, but sometimes CNC parts. And then one of my favorite parts of the job is actually the process development. So we sort of beta test and incubate different processes. And then as they're popular and successful, we get to work with our manufacturing team and implement them onto the floor and help them figure out how to move parts around and add that extra value and things that our customers want all the time. And so it's pretty exciting to get them the final product that they're looking for instead of just manufactured parts.
So Sophie, I've had the great pleasure of touring 3 of your facilities, and it's just awesome, right? It's just an awesome display of technology. Tell everybody what Proto Labs is.
Yeah, Proto Labs is we really make parts fast for people, and that is all through different types of manufacturing. I work, like I said, mostly with the injection molded team, but we also have CNC machining, sheet metal, and 3D printing, and it's all over. There's facilities all over the US and in Europe and Japan, and it's an online platform too, which is really cool. So, you know, some of these parts we don't even honestly have to interact with the customer. They click order, configure, and the parts just show up at their door as quick as one day. So it really depends on what service they pick, but it's a really neat web presence manufacturing integration.
Absolutely. So now, Sabrina, tell us about your job. What do you do, and what does Novellus do?
Sure. So Novellus is the world leader of rolled aluminum products. So we essentially flat roll aluminum so that it can be used in various applications from aerospace, automotive, beverage can, and specialties markets. So as a product engineer, I am responsible for helping develop new products for our different value streams and also for kind of troubleshooting any issues and making sure that our customers are getting the material that they're expecting and at the quality that we have a reputation for.
So now I had the great pleasure of being out at Novellus last fall for Manufacturing Day, and it was just awesome. But tell everybody, because they might not know, the life cycle of an aluminum can.
Sure. So aluminum cans start, well, at least in our plant, we receive used beverage cans. So cans that have already undergone their life cycle. They are melted down into molten metal. And from there, they are actually cast into large, about 40,000 pound ingots. So huge slabs of metal. From there, they are rolled, well, first they're heated. They're heated up in large furnaces, and from there, they are rolled down into what we call a hot band. So a hot band is essentially like an intermediate gauge for the metal. From there, it goes to cold rolling, so it is squished down even further to a lighter gauge, and from there, it is finished by trimming the metal. And then it goes to our can customers who actually process the metal into beverage cans.
But it's what, like 60 days that, his can can come off the shelf before it's remade and go back on the shelf?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So now, okay, people think of manufacturing and they don't necessarily think of either end of the spectrum of both of your careers, right? What you're doing. They don't think of women in manufacturing, right? So what attracted you to a career in modern manufacturing? What was it that was that lit the spark that brought you into the sector?
Well, I guess for me, it was, I always liked getting my hands dirty, so to speak, or taking things apart, maybe not always putting them back together in the right way. But manufacturing also let me utilize a lot of different skills that I thought were interesting, the science and math that I was good at and wanted to keep doing. And I found also the further I got into manufacturing, it's also just about, for me, relationship building and working with teams and getting the best insight from people who've been doing it for 30, 40 years. And I really enjoy, the further I've gotten in my career, how much different skills I get to use every day.
Absolutely. Sabrina?
So I've always been really creatively minded, and I always had an interest in science in school. And so when it was recommended to me that I pursue a career in engineering, I kind of realized after having done laboratory scale research that manufacturing would actually be a more hands-on approach. I really appreciated the tangible aspect that manufacturing provides. You actually get to see your end product being produced, and you get to have a very intimate understanding as to how that's done. So that is the part of modern manufacturing that I really appreciate in my day-to-day job, getting to see the impacts that what you do to the metal early on have to the finished product.
Absolutely. I grew up in a manufacturing family. My dad always, instilled in us the value of being productive. And I've had lots of different jobs in my career. And sometimes, now I should say, I realize the value of being able to see what you make, right? That you're productive and you get to see the output. Not everyone gets to do that in their jobs, right? And you get to create and have that come out the other side. So what was your path? Did you both, straight line path, high school, college, career? Was it a camp? What was your pathway?
Well, I guess my path was pretty linear. As you said, I started really liking math and science in high school, and then I got a manufacturing engineering degree at the University of Minnesota. And after working at a dog daycare for a few months, I stumbled into an opening at Proto Labs for their mold design and quote analysis. And after doing that for a few years, I really got into the problem solving and design rework team, and then was able to transition into our manufacturing engineering team. And now I've also moved another time into our secondary ops department as a process engineer. So it's kind of an unexpected step, but I really enjoy manufacturing.
And how about you, Sabrina?
So my path was similarly linear. I graduated from Syracuse University with a chemical engineering degree. And during my education, I had an internship doing more control systems integration type work. So at the career fair, I found Novellus and joined their engineering development program for automation engineering. And I worked for them for about 4 years and then transitioned into their product engineering group, which I currently work in.
So you're telling me that you haven't had just one job and that it's not just, one thing and that's all you do your whole career, but there's lots of opportunity to evolve and move around inside of a company.
Most definitely. You can really find your niche wherever you go. And luckily for me, Proto Labs has a lot of different areas to explore and discover, and I've been able to transition multiple times in the same company.
So what do you enjoy best? What do you enjoy most about being a creator? Like, what's your favorite aspect?
I think you might have already mentioned it, the getting to see the final product. And sometimes maybe it's not the most enjoyable, but maybe the most satisfying is when we've been struggling to work on, say, a mold and it has rework after rework, and you finally get it to run. I think maybe that's my favorite part. You finally solve the problem, and you feel like it's a mission accomplished, so to speak.
Absolutely. Sabrina?
Definitely kind of piggybacking off of that, really working with like a multifunctional team across so many different roles toward the same goal, and just achieving that success after a period of like analytical thinking and problem solving there's no better feeling than actually reaching your goal in manufacturing and seeing the product meet the customer specifications.
That's awesome. So thinking about, we talked a little bit before we started about, all the changes in the sector and new technology and things that are constantly evolving, right? Thinking about where the sector is going or your company's going in the next 5 to 10 years, like what are you most excited about?
I guess for me, Proto Labs has just changed so much since I've been there. A couple of years after I started, we bought the 3DP facility and then moved on and bought the sheet metal and the extra CNC. So I'm just curious to see in 5 years what different services we offer. There's, I guess personally speaking, I didn't even know much about 3D printing until we bought that company, and that's a really interesting industry to me. And I want to learn a lot more about that and see how big of an envelope that can really expand to.
Absolutely. Sabrina?
So Novellus just completed the acquisition of Alaris. So with that, we gained so many new manufacturing facilities and also have dipped our feet into the aerospace market, so to speak. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. And I'm also excited to see the expansion in our automotive market and just really new products that we can offer for our customers. All of the development that we have going on it's all really just exciting stuff.
So if you, so we're talking to teachers and parents today, if you had a word of advice to help what they should do to help a student who's looking at a manufacturing career path or might not be sure of their path and this would be a good fit, what would you advise them to do?
I guess it's hard to say, but for me, I've always benefited from hands-on learning and hands-on experiments, and that's why I really always enjoyed the science unit, like working with Connects. And I think just trying it and being okay with failing. You're going to screw things up now and again, but sometimes that's how you learn how to get where you need to go. And I'm a personally hands-on kind of person, not just the classroom kind of learning. So,
absolutely. Sabrina, are there other words of advice?
Sure. So really encouraging analytical thinking. So making sure that students aren't just being handed the answers or that they're not just being given one approach to problem solving, really kind of exploring multiple avenues of how to solve a problem and, understanding that there is not just one solution. There can be multiple methodologies for getting where you're going. I think really encouraging people to think outside the box and think more in terms of, exploring those multiple paths really help drive problem solving in students.
Absolutely. And I think, we talk a lot about kind of the core skills, and you guys both just said some really key ones, critical thinking and problem solving and perseverance. Anything else that are kind of essential skills for manufacturing that you would underscore?
Talk to people. I know it sounds silly, but sometimes the person who is going to be doing the job operation 100 times a day has super valuable insight. And it's just talk to everybody in the whole process. And I think really you want to sometimes take a step back and get the whole picture, even if it doesn't feel relevant to the problem you're working on. Sometimes you need to understand both ends of the inputs and outputs to really get an idea and create a valuable solution for your company and for your customers.
The old communication, it really is essential. Sabrina, anything else you would add?
I would add maybe find a mentor. Find people that you can kind of bounce your questions off of who might help you gain an alternate perspective to the problem that you're looking at. Because if you just look at it in a silo, then you probably aren't going to come up with necessarily the best solution to the problem. Whereas if you bounce that idea off of other people, it can really help you achieve what you're looking to achieve.
Absolutely. I think those are great, words of advice, regardless of your pathway, but especially in the sector where it's evolving so quickly, right? I mean, you both talked a little bit about just new acquisitions for your companies in the last year and how fast, right? New technology coming on and different product lines and streams. And so, it's an exciting area to be in and a lot to learn. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing, some your story and some words of advice with the parents and the teachers today about your journey in modern manufacturing and being a creator. And for those who would like to learn more, please go to creatorswanted.org to get more facts and storytelling about modern manufacturing. And Jay, I give it back to you.
Thanks, Carolyn. That conversation is really why we feel like anything is possible. Now, ideas, they unlock what's possible, but it's not like flipping a switch and like that you become creative. So how do we help students? How do we take the steps to be creative? We literally have the person who wrote the book on creativity to help us answer that. Alan Ganett, author of The Creative Curve.
Thanks, Jay. Well, I'm really excited today to talk to you about creativity because it's one of those concepts that's really fundamental to a lot of things in our culture and our society. And a lot of the things you can do to enhance your creativity are things you can do when you're young. And so what I want to do today is share some of the insights from my research around how people can actually enhance their creativity. And this research draws on science, it draws on interviews with some of the world's leading creatives, and by looking at the history of great creatives from the 1800s to the 1900s and everything in between. And so I want to start by actually looking at the word creativity, because it's one of those words where we all sort of think we know what it means, but creativity is actually a little bit more complex because it's not just productivity. It's not just about creating something, it's about creating the right thing, right? When I throw paint on a canvas, it's not worth anything, but when Jackson Pollock does, it's worth millions and millions of dollars. And there's some people in our culture who have this amazing ability to have these great creative hits. And we can all think of their names, right? The creative geniuses. It's the Steve Jobs and the Elon Musk and the Beyoncés, right? And top right, we have Mozart, our sort of classic child prodigy. On the bottom right, we have Beethoven looking super creepy. These people have this amazing touch, this amazing ability to do no wrong. Now, by the way, no one ever mentions my personal favorite, which is Taylor Swift. That's okay. You have flaws. She doesn't. But the thing that's so interesting is that creativity is intertwined with the individuals who do it. We can't talk about creativity without talking about these creative geniuses who seem to practice it so well. But what's fascinating is when you take a closer look and you look at the stories of these creative geniuses, you start to find patterns that can tell us a lot about how we can enhance our own creativity. Let me give you an example. Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney is the #1 songwriter of #1 singles. Say that 10 times fast. And he actually wrote more than even John Lennon. And he wrote the song Yesterday, which is the most recorded song of all time. The most covers, the most people have done versions of it, the most recorded song. But what's interesting is when you hear the story of how he created Yesterday, well, it's actually like a lot of creativity stories because it just kind of hit him. One Saturday morning, he was kind of sleeping in after a long night out, and he woke up realizing he'd actually dreamed this melody. And he was so worried that he had accidentally plagiarized it that for a few weeks he went around to his friends asking them and saying, hey, have you heard this before? And they were like, no, Paul, we haven't. And he was like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. By the way, historical side note, one time he was working on this early on and someone offered him as a snack scrambled eggs. And as a result, the placeholder lyrics for the song Yesterday for a long time was this, and I will promise to sing it if you promise to applause. And I'll know, even though I can't hear you, I'll know. I have that millennial insecurity. So you ready? Okay. Scrambled eggs, oh my baby, how I love your eggs. Diddle, I believe in scrambled eggs. Thank you. I can tell you applauded. I feel better. But the thing that's important from this story is that, like most great stories of creative success, they have these moments, this flash of genius, this epiphany, this light bulb moment, whatever you want to call it. And this is all part of the sort of Western notion of creativity that I like to sum up as the inspiration theory of creativity, and really has 4 key attributes. One, it's individual centric, right? We talk about these great creators. We talk about Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. We talk about these people as if they were doing it all by themselves. Second, for these people, it's easy, right? We don't talk about them struggling, right? It's Mozart's, or Paul McCartney. They're just like waking up with great ideas. Third, even though it's easy, it can be overwhelming, right? We get into sort of flow states where you're sort of roiled with inspiration. And fourth and finally, these people are just a little bit different, right? There's all these caricatures of Mozart as being a little bit out there. Steve Jobs was a jerk. Look at Kanye's Twitter. Like, they're just a little bit different than you and I. But there's also a fifth element. This model of creativity is also unattainable. This is the story of the creative haves and the creative have-nots, of these creative demigods over here and us normies who are just trying to do our job. Adobe did a study and they asked people, are you living up to your creative potential? And only 25% of us say that we are. Now, I was once reading a book on public speaking. They said you should always use pictures of puppies and babies whenever possible. So I think this is a good time for a picture of a sad puppy because this is pretty depressing. By the way, this is a corgi. I own a corgi. This is not my corgi. My corgi is never sad. I'm a good dad. So the question that my research tackles is, what if this idea, what if this inspiration model of creativity, what if it isn't true? And I look at this by looking at the science around creativity, so it's sociology, neuroscience, psychology, anthropology, looking at the history of creativity. What can we learn by looking closer at the stories of people like Paul McCartney or Mozart? And third, by actually interviewing 25 living creative greats. So these are Oscar winners, Tony Award winners, Michelin-starred chefs, about their creative process. What I want to do today is actually share some of the things I found about how creativity works, and more importantly, how you and your students can enhance your creativity. But to start, I want to look at the science around creativity, because what's interesting is when you look at the research around creativity, what you find is that study after study does not support the inspiration model of creativity. Let me give you one example. So this was a study that was done in Austria, and the researchers had a pretty basic question. They said, okay, if creativity and genius are so intertwined, well, let's have a group of people do both a creativity test and an IQ test, because they should be correlated. Now, IQ is normalized on a bell curve. So if you have an IQ of 100, half the world's smarter than you, half the world's less smart. Now, all of you, since you registered for this, are on the far, far right. Thank you for coming. But here's what's really fascinating. When they did this study, what they found was there actually was a correlation between IQ and creative potential, but that correlation went away once you cross the threshold of 104. You got an IQ of 110 or 160, it didn't matter, you'd have the same creative potential. This is called the threshold theory. It's been replicated over and over again. It's this idea that once you get past a relatively average IQ threshold, we actually all have the same creative potential. And this is really important, right? Because this isn't 100 people a generation or even 10,000 people, but this is literally billions and billions of people with the same creative potential. So the question that I have then is, well, how can we unlock this? And that's really what my research is focused on. And I want to give you one tactic, one tool that you can actually use to do that. But to explain that tool, I first want to start with a story. And that story takes place in a little place called Phoenix, Arizona. Nice dry heat. Maybe some of you are from there. And in particular, we are going to take a visit to a retail shop. And this is something that I had to Google. I didn't know what this was, but it's called a video rental store. Sort of like an offline Netflix. You'd walk around the shelves, very weird. And the protagonist of our story is an 18-year-old named Ted. Ted was the clerk at this video rental store. He was a community college student. This is not a picture of Ted. This is a grown man. And what's interesting is that for some reason, Ted had this amazing ability to recommend movies. He was like a film sommelier. If you like this movie, he'd recommend that movie. And people would line up waiting to talk to Ted, waiting to ask him for a little bit of his taste. But where did this come from, and what can it tell us about creativity? Well, it started when he was a kid. He was the first of 5 children to teenage parents, and he lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. It was always crazy and busy. And so to get away, he would go to his grandmother's house. And his grandmother loved Hollywood. She always had the TV on. She would talk about these actors and actresses. And Ted found that this was his safe space. Film and Hollywood and movies, that's how he could get away from it all. So when the second ever video rental store opened up in Arizona, down the street from his house, he walked in and started talking to the owner. The owner was like, damn, this kid's weird. And he hired him. And the result was Ted got the job at the video rental store. Now, Ted decided that rather than do his homework during the day, he decided that, hey, I love movies. I'm going to watch every single movie in the store. Now, there were less movies back then, but I'm not being hyperbolic. He literally watched every single movie in the store. And this intense consumption is what gave Ted this knowledge, this knowingness, this ability to understand what people would like. Now, what's interesting is that fast forward, he eventually got a job at a video distribution company. And in the year 2000, after rising the ranks, he was poached away to go work at a startup named Netflix. But for the last 20 years, he's been the chief content officer overseeing all content licensing, all content acquisition, all original programming. If there's a show you like on Netflix, it's thanks to this guy and his team. A few months ago, he got promoted to co-CEO of Netflix. He was one of the first people I interviewed for this book. What I thought was so interesting from his story was that what he credits as a huge part of his success was actually consumption. See, so often we think about creation and consumption as opposites, active, passive. But in actuality, when I interviewed these successful creatives, they all had a story like Ted's. They all were rabid consumers of their niche. And this is really fascinating because consumption is pretty accessible to all of us. So why would this work? Why would consumption be tied to creativity? So to explain, I'm going to tell you another story. This one takes place in a slightly different time period. The year is 2050. And this time the protagonist is me. This is me in 30 years. I think I aged pretty well. And for some reason, I'm reading a paper newspaper. And something in the paper newspaper is actually useful for us in the science of creativity. And that is a crossword puzzle. And the reason why is that crossword puzzles can actually be solved in 2 different ways. See, sometimes when we're solving a crossword puzzle, it's very logical. It's very step by step. What's that letter? What's that letter? Okay, I solved it. And that type of processing is what happens in the left hemisphere of our brain. The left hemisphere is where we store the dominant meanings of words or concepts. If I asked you what color is the sky, your left hemisphere would be like, it's blue. And it's also where we do logical processing. So if you solved a math problem, for example, that's all going on in the left hemisphere of our brain. This type of processing is all very conscious. But then there's another way you can solve a crossword puzzle. See, sometimes you're looking at a crossword puzzle and you're like, oh, I know the answer. It's green. I'm brilliant. And you experience what scientists call sudden insight. Now, what's interesting is from a biological perspective, that epiphany you have when solving the puzzle is actually the same thing as we talk about creative geniuses having when they experience a light bulb moment or a flash of genius or inspiration. So it's really interesting what scientists will do is they literally put people in an MRI machine, show them different puzzles, and look at what is the brain doing when it solved them through logical processing or sudden insight. Now, Dr. Bowden is sort of the big researcher in this field, and he gave me this quote that I think is a good sort of punchline for understanding this. He said, look, aha moments are a normal cognitive process, but they have a surprising result. They're a normal cognitive process, but they have a surprising result. See, they happen in the right hemisphere of our brain. This is where we store more sort of distant or metaphorical associations. Think about like stand-up comedy, for example, or if you're trying to think about like distant concepts. So if I asked you to visualize a worm, your left hemisphere would think about like a worm with this weird face. Your right hemisphere would think of things that are sort of related, right? So maybe like gummy worms, for example, or those songs you just can't stop thinking about, earworms. But what's interesting is when it does processing, it does it subconsciously. And it's only once it gets the answer does it sort of pop into consciousness. And that's the aha that we talk about with an aha moment. Now, the thing is, that's not magical. It's simply subconscious. So the question that's really important for us to understand is, if it's not actually something that's in sort of the realm of the supernatural, well, how can we actually learn to have more of them? Well, there's two things. The first one is to have moments of silence. You have to actually be able to experience sort of what's going on in your right hemisphere. Your right hemisphere is kind of quiet, so to speak. This is why we have aha moments in the shower, on a walk, on our commute. It's not that our shower is inspiring, it's that those are moments when our left hemisphere is a little bit more calmed down. We can hear what's been going on in our right hemisphere. But then there's another thing that's really important. So Dr. Bowden gave me another quote that I think is really important. In the book, I actually have it twice right after itself, and I bolded the second time. And my copy editor said this is obnoxious in a Microsoft Word comment, but it's important. And the quote is, "You can't have insights about things you don't know anything about. You can't have insights about things you don't know anything about." Paul McCartney grew up in a musical household with musical parents. He literally played in a cover band. So yeah, he dreamed about melodies and we didn't. Consumption is one of the most essential parts of creativity because it gives your right hemisphere the raw ingredients to connect new ideas together. I like to say, if you want to connect the dots, you have to have the dots to connect. Now, my goal from this presentation is actually pretty simple. What I want you to do is to give yourself permission to actually consume. If there's something you want to have creative thoughts about, give your right hemisphere those raw materials. Give it those ingredients through consumption to actually have those epiphanies, to actually have those aha moments, because that ultimately is one of the keys to creativity. Thank you so much. I really appreciate letting me join. And if you have any questions, obviously feel free to email me. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. So you've had a chance today to get a better sense of modern manufacturing and some of the qualities that can help students create their future. So what's the next step you can take to help students become creators? Well, first, there's an app for that. Download the Smart MFG app for another cool way to excite students about modern manufacturing. Next, we also have a chat for that. Carolyn?
Thanks, Jay. I'm excited to be with you today to first say thank you for making a difference in the lives of the next generation. And second, to dive right into a conversation that you can use on how you can encourage and support students on what might be their modern manufacturing career journey. And so I'm thrilled to be here with this distinguished panel this morning. Shelley Travis of Skills USA, the CEO, Richard Grimsley, the director for CTE of Dallas ISD in Texas, and Leah Curry, president of Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Indiana. And so we're going to dive right in. Shelley's been a leader in the career and technical education industry for almost 20 years and has collaborated with business and industry and educators, legislators, and other leaders to design curricula, develop programs, draft legislation, and was a member of the Board of Regents in Tennessee as assistant vice chancellor for the Colleges of Applied Technology and as Skills USA state director. Had a lot of experience in this space, Shelley. So Shelley, if you can dive in and tell us about Skills USA and how you help through that organization prepare students for the workforce.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Carolyn, for the opportunity to be here today. Skills USA is a national career and technical student organization. We serve approximately 400,000 students and teachers nationwide in middle schools, high schools, and college and post-secondary institutions in over 130 different skill and trade areas. We're located in all 50 states, 2 territories, and DC. And it's very exciting. Our programs and classrooms, which we serve over 20,000 nationwide, graduate over 100,000 career-ready students each year. And through this process, we work with over 600 national business and industry partners to help us deliver our programming. Skills USA has an impact on the lives of America's future workforce through the delivery of Skills USA's framework skills, our personal, workplace, and technical skills that are grounded in academics. Our Skills USA framework addresses a skill set of 17 essential elements that employers demand. They have told us that they need to see in their employees, but so many employees going into the workforce lack. So at our core, we really do prepare tomorrow's future workforce for careers and develop career-ready students.
I had the great fortune of, when we were doing public events, going to your national competition, your national championships, and it's like nothing I've ever seen. And you do an outstanding job. So if an educator or a counselor or another parent or influencer is listening today and they're interested in getting their students involved, what do they do?
And you're interested in getting involved, I encourage you to go to skillsusa.org. And at our website, you'll find state directors from across the nation. We have a wonderful network of state directors. Look for the state director in your state and that website, and you can find out more about activities and opportunities to engage with Skills USA in your state. Or you can also contact our membership hotline. You can email if you'd like to know more about membership for your program at operators@skillsusa.org. If you will just email operators@skillsusa.org and request additional information, a membership kit, or find out about our professional resources. Through our Skills USA programming, we do offer instructors resources in their framework integration toolkit to make sure that they can offer those career-ready programs in their career and technical education program as well.
That is excellent, Shelley. And so, moving on here to the educator side of our panel. So, Richard, you are the Director of Career and Technical Education at Dallas ISD. Dallas ISD offers 114 pathways and 35 unique Texas-approved programs of study in 16 career clusters. That's quite a variety. Approximately 42,000 students were served, including 11,000 middle school students, which just blew me away, through CTE programs. And in the 2018-2019 school year alone, over 4,600 industry certifications were earned by students enrolled in CTE courses. So now Dallas ISD is recognized as having one of the best CTE programs in the nation. What makes a successful CTE program, and what is the advice you'd share?
So thank you for having me today. We are very fortunate in the district to have some very high quality CTE programs. And in thinking about what a high quality program looks like, to me, it is a program that is 100% aligned to local area workforce needs. We do a lot of work with our business partners to make sure that we are producing students that are work ready for Dallas. Also, it's about strong business and industry partners. And that's not just having someone periodically come to your school. It's about a partner being involved in program development and giving input to the school district and campus about the equipment that they need to support the program. Work-based learning is also a very important component of a CTE program. Everything from job site visits, tours, mentors for the students that are in the program that will help the students develop those workplace skills, whether it's resume writing, mock interviews, those kind of things. And then also a good quality CTE program is about internships. And so we really push that our rising seniors do an internship between their junior and senior year. To me, those are the high quality programs of CTE program. Also, it's about curricular programs. It's about the co-curricular opportunities, such as through career and technical student organizations, students doing competitive events, community work days, those kind of components.
So, Richard, I think you highlighted the thing that I know we talk about at the Institute as we work with entities all across the country. It's the linking up between the business and the educators, right, and the local community, so that you're not just training, you're training for the jobs that exist and the careers that exist. And you guys are just doing it so well. So, as you look ahead and as we talk to the audience here today, what is the thing that they should know? Why should teachers and counselors encourage their students to pursue a career and technical education pathway?
I've heard throughout my career that sometimes gives me a little bit of pause, because the reality is all jobs, all business sectors, everything that goes on in our economy ties back to CTE. And the thing is we want all of our kids, all of our graduates to be successful. So I think the question is different. Why would you not encourage students to take CTE? Because through our programs, they develop life skills, they develop technical skills, and they apply their core academic skills. So to me, it's an obvious. If you want a student to be successful beyond high school, this is a natural place that they should be.
Fantastic. It's not an other. It's why it should be foundational, and I think that makes a ton of sense. And it's a perfect segue actually to our third panelist. Leah Curry is the president of Toyota Motor Manufacturing Indiana. She's responsible for all production and administrative functions at the manufacturing facility, which produces the Toyota Highlander, the Highlander Hybrid, the Sienna, and Sequoia. And Leah has been with Toyota for over 2 decades and has a truly inspiring story to how she got her start. Leah serves on the Manufacturing Institute's Board of Advisors and has been a longtime leader and mentor and role model for many of us on the team, and is nationally recognized as one of the top women in the automotive industry. So Leah, bring the story together for us here. What would you share about the value of CTE education and apprenticeships for young people entering the workplace?
Hi, Carolyn. Thank you very much. This is a great opportunity. When you look back at the skills that are needed to be successful, I was going down the path of being a 4-year chemistry, going into the field. I actually started in pharmaceutical nutritional in a lab, but I found that I really liked working on the equipment more than I liked doing the analysis. But what the opportunities are is experience these different types of skill sets. So CTE provides the student not only with the theory, but also with the application. So when I was in an internship myself early on, I learned so much more because I could understand the theory that they were teaching me in school, and I could apply that to real world advanced manufacturing technologies. So it is extremely exciting and fun for our students and for us. I get excited every day in manufacturing right now because we get all these new technologies coming in. When you teach a skill and you understand the base and the theory behind it, no one can ever take that away from you. So why would you not want to apply learning from theory base to actual applications in the workforce? And manufacturing is so exciting. It's brand new. The technology is racing. We're getting new systems in every day. And I see students coming in that blow me away with their skills and their ideas that they have. But if you're not exposed to this type of manufacturing career, then you don't know what you're missing. So we started the Advanced Manufacturing Technology program that actually works with local colleges, and you get to work and go to school at the same time. And then now we partnered, NAM's taken that over. Manufacturing Institute is leading for a national-wide program. So these are opportunities. If you don't know about them, please ask more information on them, because you're going to be able to expose students to a wide range of careers within manufacturing. We have painting, we have welding, we have pressing parts. It's just accounting and finance. We have, engineering. It's just so many opportunities that I think that we need to make sure everyone knows. It's high paying jobs that are long careers that give you opportunity to expand and grow throughout your life.
I've had the great fortune of touring more than one Toyota facility, more than one manufacturing plant. And, I sometimes describe it as like the Willy Wonka tour of, a car factory. And there are things moving all over. And you talked about the technology, Leah, but at the heart of it, I know this is part of your philosophy for Toyota, are the people. And your workers are your most essential resource. So as we have this, I think, incorrect conversation, this media narrative about technology replacing jobs, it is changing the tasks, and the workers are still remaining at the middle. So, going to that, Leah, how does Toyota help prepare students prepare for a career in manufacturing? You mentioned FAME, the Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education, which now we are honored to steward after Toyota founded that program. But what else can teachers do to be involved, and how do they work with companies like Toyota to achieve these goals?
There's a lot of programs that you can get involved with. The FIRST Robotics, there's Skills USA that we talked about. There's Project Lead the Way is another great example. And then we just partnered with the Boys and Girls Clubs. We are giving $20 million over a 5-year period. And really, they're teaching the students not only how to be successful and gain skills, but critical thinking, problem solving, how to understand the environment inside, outside, and really a holistic approach to being really just a great person who's happy and has value that they can give to whatever career they go into. But those are the types of organizations that a lot of us have partnered with that are ready and willing to help teachers at any time.
So we've just scratched the surface on what's possible here. We had a lot to cover in just 15 minutes, but we hope that you found these insights useful. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We'll keep this conversation going with new resources at creatorswanted.org. So please keep in touch. Thank you, and keep inspiring the future of our workforce.
Now at creatorswanted.org, we'll be rolling out more resources soon for students and you. You can also attend more MFG Day events throughout this month and sign up to be the first to find out where the Creators Wanted Tour is coming. It's been great to be with you today, and thank you for being awesome. Until I see you again on YouTube, Instagram, maybe even TikTok, I'm Jay Flores. Thank you for joining us.